Cooked.
So welcome to the culture for today's video, where we're going to be discussing a common technique flaw that we see when people pull the slack out of their sumo deadlift, particularly for those who like to start the hips high and quickly drop their hips down into position before pulling off the floor. The biggest example of this style of deadlift is probably John Paul Kauke of Australia, one of our good friends. So if you haven't seen him deadlift, here's a little video of it. But we've got a good example of it here. Jason Stupas, one of our more experienced lifters here at the culture, who's nailing down some Australian records potentially in the next few months, particularly for deadlifting. He's a very good deadlifter, and he actually does this style of deadlift, and the pulling the slack is something that we've focused on in the past sort of 2 to 3 months. So we're going to use him as an example. So jump in and move through go from the front so you can see the actual slack. So what we're looking at, and Jason does a really good example of this, is once he pulls the slack out of the bar when his hips are high, as he goes to drop his hips in, the slack is maintained in his system. So you'll see that he'll pull the slack out, and then the hips drop in, nice, drop. And the hips drop in really quickly down into position, but the slack is maintained the whole time. What he doesn't do is pull the slack out, and then as he drops his hips, loses the slack, and then have to regain the slack in the bottom position. So do another good rep. So you can see how he pulls the slack out, hips drop, and the slack is maintained the whole time.
Down.
What this allows us to do with a sumo deadlift is it allows us to find the strongest hip position. It may take a little while for you to develop this sort of skill, but if you want to become someone who is experienced and a technically sound lifter, dropping the hips in fast, this is the skill that you really need to develop through your lifting career. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section below. You can find us through all the links in the description box. Follow Jace at esaints_stupas on Instagram. He's a good lifter, so definitely get around him too. And as always, happy lifting and welcome to the culture.
Cooked.